Hey guys, we are back once again. This time we're going to be doing something a little different, which is we're going to be typing characters from like media. So this could be, movies, cartoon characters, anime, stuff like that. We're basically going to look into their personality, their characteristics, and kind of like their back history as well, and why they are the MBTI type that they are. So starting this video series off, we have Batman, who I believe is an INTJ. And contrary to what most other people believe, some think he is an INFJ because he's driven by his traumatic past and losing his parents. However, I think he leans more towards the logical side. And I will explain to you why this is the case coming up. So, starting off with who Batman actually is. Batman is like this Caped Crusader who has been able to keep a tight lid on crime in Gotham City. But when a young criminal called the Joker suddenly throws the town into chaos, he begins to tread a fine line between heroism and vigilantism, often taking the law into his own hands. This last line is very important when it comes to INTJ. A lot of INTJs I know, they have this very strong sense of justice. They feel as though they have to take the law into their own hands. They have to basically punish people who deserve being punished. So they seek justice and righteousness for those that have been wronged. And so for example, INTJs cannot stand it when someone commits a crime and does not get punished for it, right? To them, it's like, this is not justice. This person needs to be punished in some way for what they have done, right? This person has not taken responsibility for their actions. And so a lot of INTJs, they have this very strong sense of moral justice, and so they have this desire to see basically righteousness prevail, which is basically like the justice system. If someone commits, a crime, they should be punished, or in some case, or at the very least, they should offer some sort of retribution for what they have done, right? An eye for an eye. Not necessarily along that lines, but as the old saying goes, basically an eye for an eye. Defining INTJ traits of Batman, which is, again, he takes the law into his own hands, right? To him, the Gotham police are incompetent. They did nothing to apprehend Batman's parents' death. Thus, he feels he has to do it himself. And this stems from a number of reasons, such as retribution, justice, a desire for vengeance, and also because it was a defining moment in his childhood, right? Because his parents were killed at such a young age, when he was such a young age, it basically traumatized him, and he never really had a childhood. Growing up, he wasn't happy. He was, always grieving over these events that took place, especially when he's a child. He doesn't really know how to process it. But him basically encountering this situation when he's at a young age, it helped to mature him at a very quick pace, which is also very evident with many other INTJs and INFJs that I know. At a young age, they are very mature for their age because of like the kind of trauma that they have encountered when they were younger. Batman also likes to plan ahead and take action to prevent future outcomes at all costs. So for example, let's say Joker is going to blow up the city, and Batman knows about this. To Batman, he is willing to basically go above and beyond the law in order to prevent these events from happening, going to the lengths so much as breaking the law himself. So for example, he will interrogate Joker by, punching the answers out of him until he's a bloody pulp.
I'm just ahead of the curve.
Worst, dude. Have all these rules, and you think they'll save you. What about you and his little bully?
Where are they? Killing is making a choice.
Where are they?
Choose between one life or the other. Your friend, the district attorney, or his blushing bride to be.
Now, if a police officer were to do this, they would probably be fired. But for Batman, because he's not a police officer, he's a vigilante, he is allowed to basically do whatever he wants. Which is why basically it leads to his third trait, which is he works alone. Batman does not really have any allies. The police are not on his side, and in most cases are trying to apprehend him because, again, he is considered a criminal because of his vigilante actions. He works alone, barring his sidekick, Robin. most of the time he works alone. He does most of the heavy lifting by himself, which is, you know, going after the criminals, doing the research, gathering information. He doesn't really rely on anyone to help him in his line of work. He just mainly handles everything by himself. He likes to be the one taking action. He likes to be the one to, you know, apprehend the criminals. The only instances in which he does basically pass on the torch is when he has beaten the bloody pulp out of a criminal. They are unconscious, and then he'll throw them at the feet of like a police officer, and then he'll fly away. That's about it, right? He's done his job, which is I've caught the criminal. As for, you know, the boring stuff, which is filing the paperwork, throwing him in jail, putting handcuffs on him, that's up to the police, right? Because, you know, because to Batman, he's just like, you know, this is what the police are for. They are basically just here to, you know, put criminals in jail cells. They are not here to actually catch criminals, because in Batman's mind, he's like, well, if they actually were to catch criminals, then why didn't they do anything for my parents, right? So to Batman, he kind of looks down on the police in this sort of manner, which also kind of stems from like a superiority complex, which NTJs tend to have. And lastly, as to why I believe Batman is INTJ, is he is prepared for anything and has an arsenal of tools at his disposal. So this includes his utility belt, his grappling hook, smoke bombs, batarangs, and even like a remote control that allows him to drive his Batmobile to its exact position whenever he needs to. And as for last resort, he also has his butler, which is Alfred. So basically, the INTJ in this scenario, he knows that he's going up against dangerous criminals, and so he has to prepare himself for these encounters. And so in order to do this, right, he's also realistic about it. He's in shape. He takes up martial arts classes. He has training with, like, you know, firearms, psychology of criminals. He is very knowledgeable in the aspects of like going after criminals and the justice system, right? And because of this, he has a large arsenal of tools at his disposal. This also includes, you know, the things on his belt. It also includes his gadgets. It also includes his Batcave, and also his money, because, you know, as you know, Batman is rich, and this is what allows him to fund his lifestyle, which is, I have a lot of money. I use it to fund my criminal activities and keep the city safe. That is basically his hobby. So I wouldn't necessarily say that Batman does it out of a sense of justice. It's more like he does it because it's his hobby. To him, it's like fun. Which is why, throughout the movies, one of the things that Joker actually like talks about is Batman would never actually be able to beat the Joker, and vice versa. Because if that were to happen, then Batman no longer has a motive for continuing to do what he does. So basically, for Batman, his sense of excitement comes from, you know, tracking down the Joker and stopping him in his plans. And for Joker, his excitement comes from knowing that Batman is always there, is going to be there to stop him and prevent him from putting his plans into action. And so it's a very yin and yang relationship, right? Which is why Batman would never kill the Joker, whereas Joker, he has the motives, he wants to kill Batman, but he also knows that he never would be able to do so. And if Joker actually did kill Batman, then he would probably stop his criminal ways, right? He basically just said that, I think, in a video I once watched, which is like, Joker said that, like, if Batman did not exist, I probably would not be a criminal anymore. Because, like, there's no more fun in it. No one's here to stop me, I'm always going to succeed. And so basically that's the dynamic between Batman and Joker, which is, if you don't know, Joker, I think, is an ENTP. If you want, I can make another video on this in the future. Oh yes, last thing. Batman also likes dark colors and being in a very broodful mood. So if you notice his outfit, the Batcave, his black suit, his mask, and also his like gray, this thing on his torso and like his arms, I don't know what that's called. But basically, he likes dark colors, he likes broody places, right? I know once I was playing a Minecraft with my friend who's INTJ. I wanted to build my house in like a nice, lush, natural forest, with a lot of green, a lot of animals, a lot of bright colors, the sun, whereas he wanted to build his house in the nether, which is like a nether fortress, actually, I think, which is like this like really big, like tall gray stones, like very depressing looking. But to him, he likes it because he likes that very bruteful nature, which is kind of like INTJ. They like to be kind of like in a broody mood. I don't know if that's necessarily the right word to use it, but like they like to be kind of like intimidating, which is what the dark colors help them to portray. And lastly, there is also one more clip that I want to show you, and I'm going to play it here, and then we will examine it later on and go a little bit deeper into Batman's functions as to why he is INTJ.
What are you looking at? Huh?
Calm down. You'll appreciate this someday.
Yeah? I don't think Hawkgirl's gonna appreciate it too much.
That was an accident. She's in our best hospital now, and
I don't want to hear it.
Okay, so breaking down the scene, we see Batman is talking to Flash, and Flash mentions that Hawkgirl is in the hospital. So the first thing he says is he tells Flash to calm down, which is basically he wants to isolate his emotions from his logical thinking. He doesn't want to get his emotions involved in the whole process because he thinks that it's going to like affect a person's judgment. And so he treats her like a necessary sacrifice, right? By bypassing his emotional side of things. He's saying, you know, it was an accident, but she's in her best hospital like now, right? He doesn't really, what's that word? He doesn't really acknowledge the emotions that Flash is going through. He's just saying, think about this logically, right? She is still alive, and now she's in the hospital. She's going to get better. So that's a very logical way of thinking. Whereas if he was more emotional, he'd be like, I acknowledge that what I did was wrong, right? I should not have. I wish I could have prevented that outcome, but like, what's done is done. Like, that is, he's not acknowledging the emotions, and that's why I think he is more of, that's why I think he's a more logical thinker, which is why we give him the T.
believe me, the last thing we want is to lose another.
Another what?
I think he likes you.
Must be my magnetic personality.
More likely, it has to do with what happened to this world's Flash.
You mean he's...
All this had to have been set off by something.
The second part is all of this had to be set off by something. So Batman himself, which is the parallel version of him, knows this because, you know, he is Batman. And so he speaks to how Batman became who he is today because of basically the death of his parents, right? So he knows this from his own traumatic childhood. All of this had to be set off by something. How did Batman become Batman? Well, it's because it had to be set off by something. And so the reason why, you know, parallel universe Batman is throwing them all in jail is because it all had to be set off by something, which is there was something that happened in this universe, this Batman's universe, that led to Flash being killed. And so this Batman puts them in cages because he wants to prevent that outcome from happening at all costs. And so it's leading to like a singular outcome instead of examining all the possibilities that could possibly occur. And so he's very future focused instead of being in the present, right? He's worried about the future. He's worried about, oh, this outcome is going to happen. So we're going to give Batman an N for being intuitive.
But to go this far, even over me,
It isn't that far from what we do, if you think about it.
I'd rather not. You figured a way out of here?
Third, he basically throws them in jail. He is trying to control them. He's trying to limit their movements, right? This is a very judging thing to do, right? He's judging the situation before he has examined, you know, all the possibilities that could occur. And if you don't know, J is a very, J seeks to control, whereas P is more open. It is more open to like exploring ideas. It is more, basically you can think of J as like control, whereas P is like freedom. And so basically, because Batman is throwing them in jail, it's a form of control. So we're going to give him a J for his last letter. And lastly, Batman does not say why he's doing all this, right? He keeps his internal conflict to himself. He keeps his own internal dialogue to himself. He keeps it all very inside. Even when Flash says, like, what are you trying to prevent? Like, prevent what? And then Batman just stares at him and then just walks away. He doesn't go into the details of, like, I feel this way, or, like, this happened, and so therefore this is why I'm doing it, right? He's not very expressive in his emotions or his thinking, and so this is why we're going to give him an I for his first letter, which leads to INTJ. Now,
Flash! Flash!
this is also another important scene, because in this scene, Batman's worst fears have basically come true, and now he's in stress mode. And when you're in stress mode, basically all of your functions flip. So INTJ becomes ESFP, right? And so he starts acting irrationally. He displays his emotions openly. He starts yelling instead of being calm. You know, saying like, Flash, Flash, are you dead? He does not think before acting, which basically he does not think before unlocking Flash's wrist cuffs. And as a result, that leads to him getting knocked out because he's in stress mode. And basically all of his careful planning has gone out the window. And so lastly, we're going to go into the functions that are displayed, which is first one is FI, which is his own internal values. The way he sees Hawkgirl as just like, a necessary sacrifice. That's his own internal values. That's his own internal emotional values of how he perceives the situation. Whereas if it was FE, Batman would at least acknowledge how Flash is feeling instead of just saying, calm down. Your emotions are invalid. She's now in the hospital. Everything is fine. TE. Basically, Flash goes over this in the last scene where it's like, you'll appreciate this someday. So
You'll appreciate this someday.
So TE is a function that tries to control how other people think, and so that's what Batman is doing by saying, I'm throwing you in jail, but you'll appreciate this someday because TE, right? You need to change your perspective. You need to change the way you think that to match mine, right? My ways of thinking is better, and so therefore you'll appreciate this someday. NI, which is introverted intuition, he basically is so focused on a singular outcome and preventing that singular outcome, which is future oriented. He's trying to prevent the death of Flash, and so that's why he has NI. And lastly, we have external sensing, which is SE. So you notice that he puts them in a cage that is fully sealed, right? Like compared to a traditional jail cell with just bars, there are holes, which might possibly lead to I don't know, structural weakness or of the jail cell. And so this is why the jail cell that Batman has chosen is like a cage that's fully enclosed with glass doors and bars. And the reason why he wants glass doors instead of metal is because he wants to see into the cage to kind of engage what is happening at all 24/7, which is why he also has the camera system, so that he can monitor exactly what's going on. In case his captive's trying any funny business, he can prevent it. So yeah, that is why I believe Batman is an INTJ. I've also heard that some people say he's INFJ, but then examining the way he processes emotions, I don't think he's an INFJ. He leans more towards the logical side, and so that is why I dub him as an INTJ. Hey you guys, hope you enjoyed the video and you got a lot of value out of it. If you're interested, I do offer one-on-one counseling sessions to help you understand more about your MBTI type, and we basically delve deeper into everything and anything that you want to know. More details on that, the link is in the description. Make sure to check that out if you're interested. Other than that, that's the end of this video. See you in the next one. Hope you have a wonderful day, and peace out.